Welcome to the Chris Hanna Show. Welcome to another episode of the Chris Hanna Show. Today I'm talking about my recent trip to Vegas. I learned a number of lessons in the last week being in Vegas, both lessons that apply to life and business. Really, for the first time in almost 2 years, I finally got away on a mini vacation to my favorite place in the world, Las Vegas. Now, I've been there countless times. I've always felt so incredibly comfortable there, whether it was quick trips, conferences, speaking opportunities, or getting married a couple of years ago there. It's like a second home for me. But with what the world has gone through over the last 2 years, it's been challenging to get away to my, what I like to call home away from home. So when the opportunity presented itself and my calendar aligning to open up a spot, I knew I needed to get down there. I'd been feeling somewhat off these last couple of months, and I felt like I needed a bit of a change of scenery to give me a boost. However, this trip was quite different because I was in a deep and reflective state the entire week. I was thinking a lot about life, a lot about work. Admittedly, as a CEO, it's tough to turn off the brain and not think about the business. But with everything that I experienced throughout the week, I learned a lot of lessons. In addition, I was reminded of a few things that I realized apply well to both business and life. So I wanted to take today's episode and share some of the critical lessons that I learned or I was reminded of during my week away in Las Vegas. Number 1, trust matters. For anyone who's been to Vegas before, you know that there's plenty of quality shows to see. Between concerts, residencies, illusionists, and more, there's lots of entertainment that's always available. If you haven't already done so, you gotta check out a Cirque du Soleil show, if you ever get the chance. I've seen a number of them over the years, and some of them are so good I've watched them a couple of times. Last Tuesday evening, my wife and I went to Mystère at Treasure Island. It was quite an incredible performance to see these talented people and what they're able to do. Some of the talents were literally throwing themselves into each other's arms, high in the sky during the performance. They would launch themselves in midair, and someone would swing out and catch them. The trust between everyone was so amazing to see. If you don't fully trust your partner, you will fail. You will fall. The same applies during business and life, I realized. We need to trust the people we're working with to do what's necessary. Either they will, or they won't keep your trust. It's when trusts are gone that problems can arise. Now that leads me to the second lesson that was learned is that don't let mistakes define you. Because watching the performance, someone missed their assignment and was dropped from high in the sky. Now, thankfully, there was a net there to help break the fall. The pros that these people are, they just pick themselves off the net and climb back up top. So many people make mistakes, and it crushes them. They dwell on it, they beat themselves up. For these performers, it didn't faze them at all. We all need to remember that sometimes things aren't going to go to plan. We can often be hard on ourselves and we can sulk, be miserable, or we can choose to move on. Seeing these two people fail to connect and miss their mark and literally have one of them fall through the air and climb up high again to continue with the show demonstrated the level of professionalism and commitment needed to succeed in today's world, both in life and in business, in my opinion. Stuff's going to happen that's going to be out of your control, but you can either choose to focus on it or you can choose to carry forward. Ultimately, I choose to move on. Another lesson was that quality matters. Throughout my career, I've repeatedly said that quality is more important than quantity. I was reminded of this in Vegas this past week. Is Vegas cheap? Not exactly. You get what you pay for. It doesn't matter if it's the food, the entertainment, the hotel room, whatever it is. Sometimes it's worth it to have a more comfortable experience. So in Vegas, I decided to get a suite instead of the standard room. Usually I always say that we're never in the room long enough, so it doesn't really matter about the room. However, I decided I wanted a better quality experience, opting for a suite at the MGM Grand. Sure, it cost a bit more, but the difference in quality made for a better experience. So the lesson here is that quality just matters so much. Whether it's our products or services, we need to ensure that we're offering a quality experience for any customer. People often experience buyer's remorse with different products or services that they purchase. I can tell you I didn't. It met my expectations with a great view of the strip, enough space for me to work comfortably throughout the week, giving my wife the space that she needed. Every detail of the suite, the layout, the design, the view was meant to justify the quality. In business, we always need to ensure that the quality is emphasized at every step of the journey to ensure customers are highly satisfied. Another lesson is that service always wins the day. In August of 2018, I proposed to my now wife in Las Vegas. That night, we ate at Otoro at the Mirage, which is pretty much in the center of the strip. Like, the food and the atmosphere is great, but what made it more special was the excellent service that we received that night as we celebrated getting engaged. It was a mix of having perfect customer service with great food that made the world of difference for us. Ultimately, we had the most pleasant waitress we've ever had. So coming back to Vegas last week, we decided to hit up Otoro again. To our surprise, we got the exact same waitress. Again, Pauline. How do we remember this 3 years later? As well, because she stood out. She's fantastic, greeting us with such enthusiasm. After providing us with a great meal and drinks, she not only dazzled us with her knowledge of the menu, but made a lasting impression on us throughout the evening. It was by far probably the most expensive meal during the week, but it was worth it because the service was outstanding. The world needs more Paulines, giving their best every single day to customers. I've said this before, that people don't buy products and services from companies. They buy from the people that they connect and relate to more than anything else. Pauline's service was so good that it made our night. Her great service justified the higher cost that we were willing to spend. Another lesson learned is that you need to look where you want to go. On the Monday there, we rented some scooters for a trip out to Red Rock Canyon. With no cell service or distractions, a half-day excursion out in the desert was an excellent way to spend a Monday. During our initial training on scooters, our guide Clay, he highlighted the importance of looking where you want to go to control the scooter. He said, if you take your eyes off where we want to go, you're going to struggle and you're potentially going to go off course, maybe lose control. During the practice round of training, I admittedly did and almost lost control. I thought, what an excellent metaphor for life and for business. Far too often, we look backward instead of keeping our eyes focused on where we want to go. As a result, we don't achieve what we want. There are times when we get distracted and we look around instead of being laser focused on what we need to do. Admittedly, there were times on the scooter that we zipped around some of the curves on the road and I took my eye off again where I wanted to go and I need to quickly course correct. In life, it's so important to keep our eyes focused on our goals, the same as in business. If we don't look forward, we'll never get to where we want to go. It's ultimately your eyes, your vision, that determines your path forward. A lesson that I've learned, not only just last week, but I've learned throughout my life and my career, is that you can't play scared. Look, I love poker. It's one of my all-time favorite things to do. To me, there's no greater game to play than poker. It's a game of risk, strategy, reward. Any two cards can win, but more importantly than that, starting hand is really about reading players and situations. I find in business I use my poker skills all the time. Now, when I was in Vegas last week, I decided I wanted to play in a tournament. And so I played at one at the MGM Grand. I've played in thousands of games and tournaments over the years, and I've missed playing live, though, so much. So I needed to play in a tournament. Now, I'm traditionally what I would classify as like an aggressive poker player. I'm raising, I'm bluffing, I'm check raising, I'm forcing people to make all-in calls. But I wasn't playing my standard style when I played last week, though. I found that I was really playing, honestly, scared. I was folding hands I normally wouldn't toss away for whatever reason. I seemed to be more on a protective kind of style or approach, just trying to survive instead of aiming to thrive. While I made the final table at the tournament, I didn't win. I realized after the fact that I was really playing scared. I wanted to make the final table, so I played tight to get there. But by the time I made it, I was in a rough position where I would have to be super lucky, maybe go all in a couple of times in order to really get to the results that I needed. So the lesson here is really, if you want to win in life or in business, you can't be scared to take action. Sometimes you need to make more aggressive moves early on before you're forced to do so out of desperation. We're occasionally guilty of pulling Hail Mary attempts to kickstart business growth. In fact, we should probably do this sooner than later before we're really forced to doing so. The same applies in life. Sometimes we just need to take a chance. A few times, had I stayed in the hand instead of just playing timid, I would have won because of the flop, turn, or river. Ultimately, you got to play your game your way. When you don't play your game the way you want, the way you're used to, or the way you should, you're not going to get the results that you want. Don't play life or business scared to take action. Now, sticking with the poker theme here, another example of a lesson that I learned or was reminded of is that all in doesn't mean that you're going to win, but at least you tried. On my wedding ring, it's inscribed with the words all in. It's how I believe we need to live life. Whatever we want to do, personally and professionally, we need to go all in. We can't have one foot in the door and one foot out. It's all or nothing. Obviously, I already shared just recently that I lost the tournament. I bubbled out, and for those non-poker players, that means missing the money by one spot. A couple of times during that tournament, I tried going all in to double up. In the end, it just didn't work out. I tried to double up with my suited ace-10 against a pair of jacks. I had the nut flush draw, but I didn't catch a club or ace that would have given me the win. Had I hit, I'm confident I would have been in a position to win the tournament. Even though I lost, I was okay doing so because ultimately, I tried. Sometimes that's all that matters. We need to try. Sometimes it's going to work out, and sometimes it's not. The key is that when it doesn't go how we want, we reflect on what we could do differently given the chance again. I'm a big believer in business of trying multiple approaches and tactics. I call them pilots. We try one thing, see if it works. If it does, great, let's keep doing it. If it doesn't, then we stop and do something different. We have to pilot new ideas, new approaches all the time. We're not always going to win, but ultimately we need to try. Another lesson I learned is more from the restaurant side of things, and it's this, that no one can read your mind. As a Canadian, my favorite drink is Caesars. I drink them wherever I go, but in the United States, they don't really do Caesars. Instead, what they do is Bloody Marys, which are similar, but they're definitely different. I'm not a big fan of anything that's spicy, so I always have to ask any server to not make a Caesar or a Bloody Mary spicy. So we were out at a great restaurant last Wednesday night. It was a seafood restaurant. I absolutely love seafood. We each ordered a Bloody Mary, my wife and I, only to be disappointed because we never asked them to not make them spicy. It was probably one of the spiciest ones I've ever had. Even though we had a waters and we were able to get another drink, the taste of that such a spicy Bloody Mary just left this taste in my mouth and kind of actually made my meal less enjoyable throughout. The lesson here is, though, you have to ask for what you want, because no one can read your mind. It's not their fault that I didn't like the drink. It's mine for not specifying my preferences. Another lesson that I learned is what I call check your skates. We went to the Las Vegas ballpark on Wednesday evening to an event called Enchant, and basically it's a Christmas light festival. So obviously we're in Vegas, so who better than Vegas to do a light show? And I'll tell you, it was one of the most absolutely amazing things to see. The quality of the production, the Christmas lights. They set up a maze in their ballpark field where attendees could wander around to find Santa's reindeer amongst these amazing Christmas lights. They also offered public skating on this customized ice path. As a Canadian, I thought, when would we ever have the chance to skate in the desert? So we had to do it. I played hockey for a number of years as a kid, and I'm a huge hockey fan, so the thought of getting on the ice again is obviously exciting. I saw a lot of tourists, or I assumed the tourists, or local folks in Vegas lacing up, and they were very fearful of being on the ice and falling. But I wasn't. I was confident. I was excited because, again, I grew up just playing hockey. The lesson learned the hard way, literally though, was to check your skates. And skates I'll use as a metaphor here for checking your equipment. Because the rental skates given to me had picks, kind of this jaded edge at the front of the blade that I wasn't used to. I never noticed it, and certainly didn't expect it. So literally within 5 seconds of getting on the ice and doing a couple significant strides to pick up speed, the skate's picks caught the ice, and I went down hard on the ice. And now I say hard, I mean hard. It was honestly probably one of the most embarrassing things ever for myself, as I knew how to skate, and I am incredibly confident. But I obviously must be getting super old, as it hurt like hell, a lot more than expected. Admittedly, here recording this, like I am still bruised days later. My poor knees. My wife said that it looked like a slow motion fall because it seemed to take forever as I tried to attempt to steady myself, but it definitely didn't work. And she said it seemed like it would hurt, and I can tell you, it definitely did. Sometimes we are so confident in ourselves that we neglect to ensure that we have what we need to succeed. In my case, I never checked my skates and got a pair that I wasn't used to using. I never checked the equipment and did the due diligence that I needed. Now, once I dusted off the snow off myself and I tried a couple of more laps, I decided to turn my skates in for different ones without those picks. And I never fell again, and I had a great night. But it could have been a lot worse with how hard that I went down. So again, check your equipment, check the tools, the resources, everything that you have at your disposal before you attempt to do something to make sure you don't put yourself in a harmful or an embarrassing situation. Another lesson learned is that you sometimes have to be the shark. We went to Mandalay Bay and attended the Shark Reef Aquarium on the Friday. Now, we've been there before because it's an excellent place to check out the sharks, the stingrays, the snakes, the turtles, starfish, octopus, all these great animals that are there. I'm always so fascinated, though, by the sharks that are swimming about in the aquarium. The lesson here, really, when it applies to life or business, is to never stop moving. Sharks, they don't stop. They keep moving, and every other fish or turtle that's in the tank with them gets out of their way. They've got this tremendous confidence that they portray that really they know their role in the tank. In life and business, we need to be the shark. Always moving, always confident in who we are. But of course, there's going to be obstacles, there's going to be challenges, there's going to be people, situations that get in our way. But sometimes we just need to keep moving and stay focused to achieve the level of dominance that we want. Another lesson is learned is that loyalty is everything. Now, since I've gone to Vegas many times, I was reminded last week of the importance of loyalty. I'm an M Life member, which means I have a loyalty card and a status with MGM. I often get comped to come and stay at an MGM property, given free offers and more. They reward me, obviously, for my patronage in their business, and in turn, it makes me loyal to them. When I stay anywhere in Vegas, I try and stay at an MGM property, and most of the restaurants that we eat at in Vegas are affiliated with MGM, just so I can get more points. Throughout the entire week, I feel welcomed and appreciated for being there. I'm repeatedly welcomed back, and that extra acknowledgement is essential. So when it comes to business, companies and leaders need to create loyalty not only with their customers, but also their employees too. I found myself reflecting last week on how important loyalty is and why it matters. It's everything. It makes the difference between successful companies and others who struggle. When we have long-term and loyal customers or employees, it's critical to make them feel acknowledged and important. If we take them for granted, there's nothing stopping them from going to a competitor. A big lesson, and the final one really that I learned last week, was that sometimes you just need to disconnect. Stepping away for a week can be challenging. Look, I hadn't taken a day off in all of 2021. And it doesn't matter in what capacity it was, every single day, weekends included, I did some sort of work. Part of that's because of the world we live in. Part of it was because there's a lot going on. Obviously working for a startup or as a CEO. But throughout my career, it's been challenging for me to disconnect from work. I work hard, I put in a lot of effort with everything that I do. But doing so can lead to feeling burnt out at times. When we were in the desert that I talked about earlier, our scooter guides gave us a heads up that we were going to enter an area where there's no cell service for hours. Now that should have given me probably some concern, but it actually was a relief, as that meant I genuinely needed to disconnect. No interruptions, no checking email, Slack, or anything else that could keep me focused on work. If anything required my attention, it's going to have to wait. Being in a position where I knew I wouldn't be accessible forced me to realize that it's okay to step away. Everything will be okay, and if it isn't, things can always be fixed later. Because nothing is so urgent that one needs to be on call all the time. Sometimes you just need to take time to disconnect. Get out on the open road, go drive through the canyon, admire the beautiful mountains. Doing so gave me a ton of perspective and ideas that I could implement when I do eventually return to work. Sometimes you just need thinking time for yourself. So my final thought is this. I know that I will receive some backlash or some negativity or some comments that I might not hear stating that I went to Vegas for a week, considering everything that we have going on in the world. But for me, it was important that I needed to do so. We've all gone through a tremendous amount of challenges over the last couple of years. For me, it's been an up and down ride. Obviously, there's been more ups and downs for sure, but lately I knew I needed a change of some sort. For me to kick off 2022 the right way on my terms, it was essential to enter with a better mindset to set myself up for continued success. In addition, I just needed time away to reflect on what to do next in terms of new strategies and tactics. So while my trip to Vegas wasn't profitable, it was an education for me. I learned a lot and was reminded of some critical lessons along the way. I look forward to going back soon. Viva Las Vegas.
Thanks for listening to this episode of The Chris Hanna Show. As always, the latest episodes are available to listen and subscribe to on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also follow The Chris Hanna Show on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Twitter. For more resources and solutions, including blog posts, toolkits, ebooks, speaking sessions, and more, visit chrishanna.ca today. We look forward to connecting again with you soon for another episode of The Chris Hanna Show.